Hi sewists and aspiring sewists, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Doyen, and in this tutorial video I'm going to be teaching you how to make this jacket. In the previous video I uploaded, I took you guys through the cutting process of how to achieve this jacket, and so in this particular video I'm going to be taking you through the sewing process. So if this looks like what you're interested in, then you want to stay tuned and watch this video to the end. So the first step here is to fold my pockets. I have 4 pockets here, so I'm just going to be folding the top side of my pocket, just as you can see in this video. Next, I'm going to be sewing on my cap. So I'm picking out 2 pieces, then I'm going to be sewing on an allowance of about 0.5, which was already calculated while we were cutting this out. So I'm just going to be following the shape that we have. We have an arrow shape, so I'm just going to follow that arrow shape through. So this is 1 piece. I'm going to be sewing the other 3 pieces. After sewing, I'm just going to pull this out and turn it to the right face, just as seen in this video. I'm also going to repeat the same thing on the other ones. Next, after that, I'm going to top stitch on the pocket caps. So after sewing, this is what we have. This is what the pocket cap is looking like. So the next thing here is to pick the pocket and fold in your allowance. So my allowance is going to be around 0.5 on each angle, and I'm going to go ahead to press. So after hitting up my pocket, this is what we have. So you can see that there's actually no big deal about it. All you just need to do is fold in your allowance and use your iron to press. So this is all we've got. This is what they are all looking like. Moving on, the first thing I did here was to cut out a portion of my stay. On my stay, I measured 3 inches for the wideness, while for the length, I worked with what I have or as the length of my jacket. So basically, I'm just going to be positioning this stay on the front part of my jacket. So I'm positioning the shining face of my stay on the wrong part of my jacket, just as illustrated in this video. I'm going to heat this up, and after heating it up, this is what we have. So the next thing I'm going to do here is to weave on this little allowance that I left behind. I have that done on the other part as well, so I'm just going to go ahead to weave on both sides. So after weaving, this is what we have. This is what it is looking like. The next thing I'm just going to do here is to fold in my allowance, just as seen in this video, and then I'm going to just iron it to form a crease line around this front part. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side as well. So what we have is about 1.5 or 2 inches thereabout. So I'm just going to go ahead to iron this. So after ironing, this is what we have, and this is what it is looking like. Next, on my sleeve, I'm going to be weaving this part of my sleeve. So I'm going to basically be weaving round like this, just as illustrated in this video. So after weaving, this is what it looks like. This is what we have. So I'm just going to put this aside. So now it's time for the pocket placement. So from my shoulder here, I'm going to come down by 8.5 inches for my shoulder line here and position my pocket just as in this video. Then from this center point of my jacket, I'm also going to come in by 2.5 inches, which is what you can see here, 2.5 inches before the placement of my pocket. So once I'm sure about the placement of my pockets, I'm going to go ahead to pin down this pocket. Then after that, I'm going to come down again from my pocket by 5 inches, then position the second pocket. So on this other part again, we're going to go in by 2.5 inches. So in between the 2 pockets, we have 5 inches. I hope you understand. Then I'm just going to pin the second pocket as well. So I'm going to go ahead to sew these 2 pockets. So after sewing, this is what it looks like. So the next thing I'm going to be doing here is to attach my pocket cap. So I'm going to be positioning my pocket cap like this, just as you can see in this video. So I'm basically going to be sewing here just as illustrated in this video, and after that I'm going to overlay my cap like this and top stitch just as illustrated in this video. So after sewing, this is what it looks like. So I'm just going to repeat the same thing on the other side as well. So after sewing, this is what it looks like. This is what we have. So I'm just going to couple this together to be sure that the pocket area aligns together. And even obviously from the camera, you can see that it aligns together, like they are properly aligned. But then I'm just going to check properly to see if it aligns. And as you can see, it properly aligns. So that's just make sure that your pockets actually aligns together, and once you're done, once you're sure of that, then you are good to go to the next stage. Next, I'm going to be joining the shoulder lines together. This is the back bodies, and I'm going to position the front bodies on the back bodies just as illustrated in this video. So basically I'm going to be sewing on an allowance of about 0.5 here as well. So I'm joining the shoulder lines together just as you can see me do right here. I'm also going to do the same thing on the other side as well. So after sewing, this is what we have. So I'm just going to trim whatever excess we have around the armhole area here. Then I'm going to knot the center point of my armhole. So the next thing you want to do here after knotting the center point of your armhole is to place your sleeve around here. So I'm just going to place the center point of my sleeve here. Then I'm stretching it round the armhole area and I'm going to sew round it. I'm also going to do the same thing on the other side as well. So after sewing, this is what it looks like. This is what we have. So after sewing, I went ahead to weave around my armhole area. The next thing we want to do here is to join my sleeves together. So this is my sleeve towards the downside of my sleeve. I'm going to be joining on my sleeve. So I'm just going to measure 8.5 inches for my slit opening, which is what you can see me measure here. So after that, I'm going to mark a point. So from this point, I'm going to be making a stitch. So from this point here, I'm going to be sewing straight down. After sewing, this is what it looks like. I'm also going to repeat the same thing on the other side as well. I'm going to be folding around this area. That was why we actually extended the wideness of the allowance. So for the folding of my sleeve, I'm going to be working basically with this gum. So on my sleeve, I'm going to fold in an allowance of 3 inches for my sleeve. We already calculated that while we were cutting, so I'm just going to fold in about 3 inches. So basically I'm going to be applying my gum while I heat this up on my heat pressing machine. You can also use your iron as well. So after ironing, this is what it looks like. So I'm just going to go ahead to fold this other part as well, and I'm going to be working with my gum as well. So basically we're creating an opening for the slits we created, and we can only achieve that by folding in the allowance we also created. So I'm just going to position the gum this way just as illustrated in this video. Then I'm going to measure what it is so that I can repeat the same measurement on the other one as well. I hope you understand. Then I'm going to heat this up. So here's what it looks like after ironing. I went ahead to do the same thing on the other side as well, and as you can see, this is what we have. You can see that this is more better and more beautiful than actually making a stitch around it. So on my collar here, I'm going to connect my my neckline circumference together like this. Then on this part, I'm going to measure 0.75 and mark that point here. So basically on this angle or on this point, I'm going to notch around there. So to determine my collar measurement from that notch part, I'm going to measure what we have left, and what we have here is about 7 inches. So I'm going to take out my collar fabric. I already measured something random previously, so I have 2 pieces of this, which indicates front and back. So I'm going to place this fabric on a fold, and on this part I'm going to measure 7.5 inches. Remember we measured 7 inches as our collar neckline circumference, so I'm going to measure 7.5 inches including seam allowance. So for the length, I'm going to measure 4.5 inches, which also includes seam allowance. So on this other part here, I'm going to reduce it by 1 inch, which makes it 3.5. Then we have a curved shape. We don't have a straight shape because the measurement is not the same. So once I have that done, I'm just going to go ahead to cut out what we have here. So for a recap, on this part where I notched, I measured 4 inches, while on the other edge I measured 3.5 inches. So next thing I'm going to be doing here is to heat up a stay on one part of my collar. So once I'm done with that, this is what it looks like. So the next thing we want to do here is to join together, to sew together. So for the stitching of the collar, we're going to focus on the straight part. You can see that we have a curvy part and we have different, like 3 different straight parts. So I'm just going to be sewing on this straight part. I'm going to start from this point, then I'm going to sew like that to the other point. So basically I'm sewing on the straight line, more like a rectangular shape. So from this part, I measured what I have, and what I have here is 15 inches, which I felt was too much for what I need. So I had to take it in so that I can get the actual measurement that I need. So the next thing after that is to turn this over to the right face. So after that, I went ahead to iron this properly. So the next thing we're going to be doing here is to top stitch on this part. So the next thing to do here is to notch the center point of my neck circumference. So I'm just going to connect my neckline together like this, then notch the center point. So basically I'm going to be connecting my collar around this neckline circumference. So I'm going to position my collar on the notch part here. Remember that we measured 0.75 before notching that area, so I'm just going to position the collar there. Then the other part of my collar, I'm going to position towards the other notch part at the other end, just as seen in this video. I hope you understand. So the center point, that's the notch part of my collar, is now going to align with the notch part of my neckline circumference. I hope you understand. So I'm going to overlap the allowance on it just as seen in this video. So basically I'm just going to be sewing from one end to the other end. So after sewing, this is what it looks like. So I'm just going to be notching around the neckline just as you can see right here. So I'm going to turn this over to the right face. Then you want to pull the allowance out with something sharp, just so that it is not looking bulgy and all of that. So this is what we have. This is what it is looking like. This is what my collar area is looking like. So the next thing I'm going to do here is to weave this collar area. So after weaving, this is what it looks like. So I'm just going to be top stitching on my collar from this point to the other point as well. So after sewing, this is what it looks like. So the next thing I'm going to be doing here is to fold the downside of my jacket. Apparently this jacket doesn't have a button. It is just a jacket without button. So I'm just going to be folding the downside of my jacket by an allowance of about 0.75. So after sewing, this is what we have. So the final thing we're going to be doing here is to add hemi gum to this allowance that we created here. So I'm just going to be locking that up with the hemi gum. So after that, this is what we have. This is what it looks like. So you can see that it's actually not difficult to achieve, and you can see that every part of this jacket is at the proper finishing. So the next thing I'm going to do is to just form a flap around here. This is about 3 inches, and then I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other side as well, also about 3 inches, and then I'm going to go ahead to iron this part of my jacket very well. So there, so which you can see that this is actually not difficult to achieve. If you're a guy and you're going to be recreating this, please let me know in the comment section, because I believe this is going to really look nice on you. And if you're lazy, this is also going to look nice on you. I'm just going to recommend that you make it shorter in form of a crop top. It is going to look really beautiful. So if you're going to be trying this, please kindly let me know in the comment section, and do not forget to like this particular video, comment and share to your loved ones, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye.